Well, it's the moment of truth. It isn't quite Christmas, but it is the winter solstice, and I think it's a good day to see if my Christmas potatoes produced anything. And they're underneath this fleece here. And what I did is that earlier in the year, I kept back some of my first early potatoes. So I got those last spring, and I popped them in the refrigerator, and I've just left them there all summer long. And generally what you need to do is get them planted about mid-August. And I was in the middle of moving this year, so I got them in quite a bit later. So I'm not really sure if they've actually produced anything, but we're gonna find out today. Now, they look very miserable right now. The foliage is all dying back. It's been very cold and wet, even here in the production of the greenhouse. So we'll have a look and see if there's anything here. I'm really going out on a limb here. I suspect that there's nothing in here. But, you know, that's part of gardening. There's successes and failures, and you learn from those, and you move on. Well, fingers crossed, let's see. Well, there's a big old worm. Oh, and there's a few potatoes. Oh, look at this. They're all little baby new potatoes. I'm pleasantly surprised. Well, it's not going to feed the hordes, but I have at least some of a harvest, and this is more than I hoped for. But what's interesting is that you can see along the base of the plant so many more little potatoes starting to form. And had I planted my potatoes a month earlier, I would have a lot more potatoes. I think that's pretty clear. So next year, I will definitely get them in on time. And maybe I'll get a few more than these, but these will make a nice dinner tonight. Today is the winter solstice. I know you're watching it a couple days later, but for me it's the winter solstice right now. And for me, this is the traditional day that I stop working. So for the year at least. So up until now, so I guess from early November until now, it is absolutely manic, busy with candles and handmade soaps and gift sets, and it is crazy and manic, and that's my life during this time of the year. So lovelygreens.co.uk is my other business, my beauty business. But today I say no more, it's enough, and I have a good couple of weeks off at the end of the year. And I choose this day because it is the shortest day of the year and the longest night. So from tomorrow, our days are going to get a little bit longer each day. And I think by the end of December, we'll have an extra 6 or 7 minutes here of daylight per day here on the Isle of Man. And if that's not something to celebrate, I don't know what is. So I've got my potatoes. I've just emptied those out. I've got a few more things that I'd like to do today. So along with these potatoes, I'd like to go up to the allotment and pick some other things. There's not a whole lot growing there, but we've got the purple Brussels sprouts and the kale, so we're gonna head up there just in a bit. Also, the winter solstice is the traditional day for planting garlic. Now you'll know that I've planted some garlic already, so that was in November, but I still have the Eden Rose garlic. And so I'm going to get these in the ground today, along with some of the shallots. Another thing that I do need to do, but I'm not gonna have time for today, is more shiitake mushroom plugs. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I planted up 30 shiitake plugs, and then I sent the video link to Anne at Anne for Fungi. She said I did a good job, but my log is massive and I need at least 100 plugs in that log for it to really take. And so I ordered some more from her, and so these need to go in ASAP. So I will probably try to get them in the morning. I've already started harvesting from the bottom of this plant, and one of the plants is already eaten. They're delicious. They taste pretty much like an ordinary Brussels sprout. The look of them is a little bit different though. So the actual rosette, it looks quite purple at first, but once you open up the rosette, it's a lot more purple and green. So it looks really, really nice on the plates. So the light is fading really, really quickly now. So I'm just going to be up here for just a little bit, pick some kale. So I've already started doing that. I've got a handful here in the basket already. Get some more greens, pick probably all of the Brussels sprouts off of this plant and maybe off of the last plant as well. And if it's not too dark by then, I will plant some of the garlic. And then if it isn't too wet and dark, we'll make a stop off at the end at a very special place here on the Isle of Man that I haven't shown you just yet. In November, you'll recall that I planted this entire bed up with various onions and garlic and shallots. And if you look closely, you'll see that they're up. So these are some of the onions. And then further up here, we have the shallots. And they've really sprouted plenty of greens. And then just below them, we've got the garlic. They're really strong and green, and they're a good few inches tall. And they're really hardy, so even if it snows, they'll be perfectly fine. I'll be mulching this a little bit better with some composted horse manure soon, but I have space down here at the bottom. So I stopped here, I left a marker, this wooden piece, and you can actually see the last of the onions are sprouting here, so there's a good space here. And so I am going to work quickly and get the garlic in. Well, it's getting quite dark. The garlic is all planted, but we're almost late. So we need to get a move on if I'm going to show you this fantastic place at just the right time. All of this land is farming land in Maughold. And then over here is what I've brought you up here to see. This is Cashtal, and it's a 4,000-year-old tomb. It's one of 3 Neolithic tombs here on the Isle of Man, and I've shown you 2 of them already in a video I did earlier this year. That was a day trip around the Isle of Man, and this is the last. And I thought it was a fitting place to take you on the winter solstice. It really symbolizes the light coming back. So we understand that the astronomy behind why it gets so dark and cold in the winter. In the past, people didn't. But it's still a special day, I think, for all of us. And as we move on into December, we will have a bit more light. We'll start planning for our gardens. And today marks that point where we can start turning our eyes more towards spring. So I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas. I hope you had a fantastic winter solstice as well a few days ago. And have a fantastic time with your family and friends. And I will see you in a week. We're going to do a recap of Lovely Greens through 2018 for the next video. And then we're going to be moving on into some really fun gardening projects to tide me over at least until spring arrives. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.